Hey everyone, it's Marina. I'm here to do a project share with you. This is going to be a longer project and um, basically a full-length video on um, how to make a junk journal using your stash. And there are many ways to make a junk journal using your stash. This is just my process and what I decided to do this time. So this isn't closed down to one way you have to do this. You can do this many different ways. I just thought it'd be fun to share a video, a full-length video process of an entire journal being made. So I tried some new fun ideas and I messed around with some new things I hadn't tried yet. So I'll just go ahead and get started. So I'm using some Aleene's tacky glue for my cover, and my cover is 2 chipboard, medium weight chipboard pieces thick. I don't always do that. Most of the time it's only 1 chipboard piece, but I wanted this journal to be thicker, so that's what I used. And if you're going to make your journal cover this way, I usually use Tyvek. Sorry about that. I usually use Tyvek, but I couldn't find my Tyvek, and so I ended up using paper, which works fine as well. Make sure if you're putting your covers together like this that you leave some space between your spine and your covers. That way you have more flexibility. You can also measure out your paper. This was a little sloppier done. I was kind of in a rush on this part right here. You can always measure out the length and width of your spine and how much paper you want over the sides, and then cut it with a paper cutter. I'm kind of glad I did it this way. That way you can see that you can make a nice journal and it doesn't have to be done perfectly. You can also use double-sided tape. You do not have to use glue for this part. I thought I was going to sew through the spine, so I didn't want to have the stickiness of double-sided tape. That's why I didn't use it. I didn't use that for the spine. So these papers I got from Marion Smith. She was having a warehouse box sale quite a while ago, and I bought 2 of the boxes because they were $25 each. And they come with a lot of awesome papers and all kinds of stuff that she had discontinued making. So I've been saving this one because I wanted to use it on something special. I really like the paper, so it's hard for me to let go of. And just a tip, if you're having trouble as well parting with your paper, if you have a printer, I would suggest scanning the paper into your computer. That way you can either print the paper and then use it with guilt-free, or use your actual paper that you purchased, and then you can always print it off again later and use it again. It's a great way to reuse stuff without having to buy it again. It does take a little bit of time, but it's worth it. So here I'm going to cut out some pieces and wrap them around the spine edge because I don't want the paper from the bottom of the spine showing. I want it to look kind of seamless. I have a few different ways you could make a journal cover. This is just one. I will also link below a few different ways you can make journal covers. Found that when you make your journal cover and say you only have one piece of paper like I did, I will cut it 6 by 12, or I'll cut the 12 by 12 into a 6 by 12. So I'll just cut the paper in half, and I will, that way I can use less paper, and I can make sure that I get the whole cover with that one sheet of paper as I want it. So what I do is I'll cut it into a 6 by 12 and I will apply it like I'm about to do. And this is a trick that I learned from Genevieve Designs. You can use a glue stick, because I wanted to make sure I could reposition if I made a mistake. And you just kind of put it over your double-sided tape, you rub it over there, and you can go ahead and position things if you need to. There's room for forgiveness, and it dries and sticks just the same. So there's no issues. So see here, I got to use one sheet of paper and I made it go through the whole, I made it go the length of the cover. I'm just preparing my edges. I decided to use craft text for my spine, and I got my craft text from Amazon. So I'm just measuring the length and width that I want it to cover, and I'm going to cut it just a little bit larger than intended and give some room for forgiveness. Plus, it's easier because you get full coverage. I'm going to use a corner chomper to round my edges and some black distress ink. And this is Distress Ink by Tim Holtz, and it is black soot. I went ahead and used the extra piece that I had because it was slightly larger and I wanted that on the outside. If you have a bone folder, go ahead and use that on your spine to make it more flexible. Make sure that paper is in there, and I'm kind of just working with it here to get it to the shape I want, but gently because I don't want anything to tear. And I noticed that the craft text is a lot more flexible than because it's supposed to be like a fabric leather, or a leather and leather and paper. It's really cool. This is my first time working with it, and I'm really happy. Now I'm just kind of trying to figure out what I want to do with my cover. I have so many different ideas, and I was just kind of trying to figure out what I wanted to do. Like I said, I went into this with like no inspiration and no idea. I kind of had a small idea of what I wanted to do, but I wanted to implement a lot of stuff. I had so many different things I wanted to do, but I didn't want to get a little out of control, which I think is fine actually when you're crafting. But I overthink. Sometimes I overthink what I'm doing. So I'm checking on my cover here, and my spine I noticed had a little bit of lifting. I think I needed to add more glue, but the craft text was really forgiving with this situation, and I feel like the paper, if I would have used paper, it wouldn't have been so forgiving with me. And it was still wet, so I was able to push it back down. I'm gathering some stamps and some embossing powder for the cover. I figured I want to try something I haven't done before, or I can't remember doing anytime before. I wanted to try some embossing on my journal cover. And this is the starch powder that you get so stuff won't stick to the cover, or that way when you pour your embossing powder on it doesn't stick. And I got this stamp from Hobby Lobby. I also found this stamp online before too. I noticed that I had this issue with my stamps, my cling stamps. They're not really wanting to cling very much. I don't know if that happens to stamps or maybe, I mean, I clean them, but sometimes they don't seem like they want to stay. So I have to find a new storage method. But here, I'm kind of testing out a stamp before I put it on my journal. I was thinking I might put this on the cover, but then I want to see how it looks so I can get an idea beforehand. Alright, I got it. I figured out what I want to do. So I'm going to do some stamping on a piece of paper that I had torn, and then do a little bit of embossing and add in some layering. And of course, every good journal that I make has to have some metal embellishments. And here I'm using some Gilder's paste wax, and it's an antique gold in a patina. And I went ahead and put a little bit over the embossing on the spine, just to add a little bit more to it. And I went ahead and used some Inca Gold for the edges of the torn paper. Now that I've finished up embossing, I'm going to go ahead and distress my edges. I'm using Black Soot Distress ink by Tim Holtz.
Found some book corners that I like from Butterbee's scrap store, and they are larger book corners, and I don't usually use these often, but this cover is double thick, so these are perfect. So I'm going to go ahead and add some vintage gold or antique gold Gilder's paste wax and a little bit of patina Gilder's paste wax. And while I'm putting my corners down, I like to put a little bit of glue, and the glue I'm using is Glossy Accents. It works really well for metal. And then I'm just going to press them down with some pliers, some jewelry pliers. I had some leftover starch or whatever this stuff is that you have in the little powder bag, and I didn't really want my spine to look white or powdered at all, so I went ahead and dampened a paper towel and just kind of wiped it. I'm picking out my inner color, or sorry, my inside cover that I want to do. Just trying to figure out how I want to layer it. So now that I figured out how I want to do my inside cover, I'm going to go ahead and get out the pages I want to use for the inside of the book, for my signatures. So I have some coffee dyed paper, some pages from my stash, some leftover scraps from my stash, or other projects that I've done. I've also got some paper bags, some coffee dyed paper bags. And these coffee dyed pages that I have with the holes in them are actually from when I had extra pages left over when I was making journals using my cinch. These are pages that I've sewn beforehand to go into my journal. And when I sew my pages, I use a sewing machine, and the sewing machine that I use is a Genome. And it's I think it's just the small basic Genome, which I got at Hobby Lobby. Layering up different sizes, different textures, all kinds of pages in here. So for a signature, I forgot how many that I have in there, but I think they're generally pretty even. So now that I have all my signatures ready, I'm going to set those aside and measure out on this page. I'm using the back of it to measure everything. I'm measuring out where I want to put my holes for the 5-hole pamphlet stitch. And I will have a link below for the pamphlet stitch that I used. So also I used lines to separate how far out I need to go by measuring the length of the spine, the length and the width of the spine. So that way I didn't make the holes too large or too far apart. I'm planning on making a tutorial of my own for the 3-hole pamphlet stitch, and if that one goes well, I'll go ahead and do one for the 5-hole pamphlet stitch. But this is just showing you how I do it, and I guess I can go through the basics, but I didn't want it to be too confusing. So I'm using my spine as a way to measure where my holes are, and I think I'm just going to take a page and I'm paper clipping this one on. So I have my holes in the right place. Yeah, so I'm taking a spare piece of paper and then I'm going to mark where I have my holes and then use the page as a measurement for my signatures. This is my first time making a cover separately off of the spine, or sorry, sewing my journal in separate from the spine like this. I've done it before, but I did it differently than this. So there, now I have a page that's all even. I like to use paper clips, the large paper clips as well as the regular paper clips to hold my pages in place. So once all of your spines are lined up and all the signatures and all the holes are poked, I leave the paper clips on so that they stay in place. Hi, honey. Did you enjoy lunch? You gonna play a game? Alright, take more pictures later, okay? Here you go. You're welcome. Okay, we'll take pictures later. You can play it. Sorry, my son just had lunch and they got up from their nap and he's wanted to hang out. Alright.
It's called Goosebumps.
Goosebumps? You're gonna play Goosebumps? Alright, just keep the volume down, okay? So here I'm gonna start up my sewing. Shh, you gotta be quiet. Okay? So I'm gonna start my sewing, and with the thread I'm using, it's wax linen thread. And like I said, I'll put a tutorial for the 3-hole pamphlet stitch as well as a 5-hole pamphlet stitch. And these are the ones that taught me.
That was so scary.
Was it scary?
Yeah.
Alright guys, so I'm gonna go ahead and skip ahead. So, or just take out the extra footage so you guys don't have to watch this whole process. So there's a couple of them in there if you want to see them, and then I'm gonna go ahead and jump to the next part. Alright, now I have all these already sewed in. I'm gonna go ahead and put down my inside covers. Double-sided tape. You do not have to use double-sided tape. You can use whatever kind of tape you'd like. This part I'm gonna use double-sided tape for the outside edges, and then I'm gonna put glue on the inside. You okay? Okay. All right, now comes the fun part, decorating the inside. decided to go ahead and do some stamping on some of the embellishments. And this is fun because you can just go ahead and use whatever you have in your stash. You can use whatever you feel like using. Sky's the limit. And these cutouts are actually from signatures that I had paper left over from and I didn't want to throw away. So these are spare papers that I had, and I really was happy I found a way to use them. I'm going to go ahead and make a closure and add some charms. I hope you guys enjoyed the video and found it helpful or informative and hopefully a little bit inspiring as far as ideas and possibilities. So I will have a video flip through of the journal posted soon, and if you have any questions, let me know and I'll be happy to answer them for you. I did receive a few requests to slow down my video a little bit and to show a little bit more so you guys can see what's going on. I hope this is helpful, and I hope this was, not too fast-paced. I will have, at some point, do a 3-hole pamphlet stitch tutorial, but like I said, I will have them below from the ones that I learned from. So anyway, if you have any questions, let me know, and I'll see you guys next time. All right, bye.